Arrival and defiance. The sky above San Francisco fractured on an otherwise ordinary Wednesday morning. Dr. Ilara Novak stood frozen on the observation deck of the Sutro Tower, her research equipment forgotten as she stared upward at the impossible. The clear blue canvas of Earth's atmosphere split open like tearing fabric, revealing a void of swirling darkness beyond natural physics. From that darkness emerged vessels of gleaming obsidian, their surfaces rippling like liquid metal under the California sun. "My God," whispered her research assistant, Kai, the handheld spectrometer slipping from his fingers and clattering to the deck. "Is this first contact?" Ilara finished, her voice barely audible above the mounting chorus of car alarms and sirens from the city below. 15 years as the head of SETI's Chenobiology division had prepared her for the theoretical possibility of alien life, but nothing could prepare humanity for the reality unfolding before them. Her hand moved instinctively to the secure phone in her pocket, the direct line to her contacts at NASA and the Pentagon. Before she could dial, a blinding column of emerald light erupted from the central vessel, striking the Golden Gate Bridge with surgical precision. There was no explosion, no sound, just light, and when it vanished seconds later, the iconic structure had been reduced to nothing but a perfect semicircular gap in the bay. "They just erased it," Kai mumbled, his face ashen with shock. Similar reports flooded in from around the globe. Beijing, Moscow, London, New Delhi. Every major city witnessed the arrival of the obsidian ships and demonstrations of their devastating power. Key infrastructure, military installations, and government buildings worldwide vanished in the same manner, victims of the silent green light. The message was unmistakable. Resistance would be futile. 12 hours later, the first transmission came. Ilara sat in the hastily established Emergency Command Center beneath Mount Weather, surrounded by what remained of America's leadership. The president had been at the Pentagon when it vanished. The vice president, who had been speaking at a rural community college in Iowa, now occupied the seat of power, her face etched with the weight of unprecedented crisis. The screens before them flickered to life without warning or human input. The being that appeared was vaguely humanoid, bipedal with 2 arms and a head, but the similarities ended there. Its skin was a network of translucent crystal-like plates that pulsed with internal light. Where a human would have eyes, it possessed a single horizontal band of luminescent silver. "People of Earth," it spoke, its voice carrying harmonics that seemed to resonate in their bones rather than their ears. "I am Supreme Architect Thelax of the Veridan Empire. Your world now belongs to us." The vice president leaned forward, her voice remarkably steady. "What do you want from us?" "Want?" The alien's head tilted slightly. "Your planet occupies a critical nexus in our expansion corridor. Your species has been evaluated and found useful, but unworthy of full integration. You will be permitted to continue existing as a resource population. And what exactly does that mean?" Ilara found herself asking, analytical mind already cataloging every detail of the alien's appearance and speech patterns. The alien's luminous band seemed to focus on her. "It means, Dr. Novak, that your species will serve. You will provide biological materials, labor, and resources in exchange for continued existence. The alternative is planetary sterilization." A chill ran through the room. "How do you know my name?" Ilara demanded. "We have been monitoring your communications networks for decades. We know everything about your civilization." The alien's voice took on an almost amused tone. "Your scientific speculations about advanced extraterrestrial life were particularly primitive." The transmission ended abruptly, leaving the command center in stunned silence. "Options?" the vice president finally asked, looking around the room. General Rivera, a compact woman with steel-gray hair and eyes that had witnessed 3 wars, stood up. "Military response is suicide, Madam President. They've demonstrated technology centuries beyond our capabilities. So we just surrender." Ilara snapped, rising to her feet. "Become cattle for harvest." "I didn't say that, Doctor," Rivera replied evenly. I said direct confrontation is suicide. But if there's one thing humans excel at, it's asymmetric warfare. A subtle flicker of hope crossed the vice president's face. What did you have in mind, General? Rivera's eyes gleamed with dangerous determination. They may know our world, ma'am, but they don't know our species. Not really. She gestured to Ilara. Dr. Novak is our foremost xenobiologist. She's been theorizing about alien biology for years. All eyes turned to Ilara, who felt the weight of humanity's future settle on her shoulders. They've been watching our broadcasts, our internet, she said slowly, pieces clicking together in her mind. But they've never actually dealt with humans face to face. They're making assumptions based on data, not experience. And, the vice president prompted, and data doesn't capture the human spirit. Ilara replied, confidence building in her voice. We need to buy time, appear to cooperate while we learn everything we can about them. Find their weaknesses. A resistance, Rivera nodded approvingly. No, Ilara corrected, her eyes fixed on the blank screen where the alien had been. A reckoning. 3 months after first contact, Ilara found herself aboard the Veridon command ship, surrounded by the cold, crystalline architecture that seemed to pulse with its own internal rhythm. The walls emitted a faint bluish light, reacting to her presence as she moved through the corridors. She had been selected as Earth's scientific liaison, a decision that came after extensive testing revealed her unique combination of knowledge, adaptability, and psychological resilience. A slender Veridon, different from Supreme Architect Thilax, guided her through the labyrinthine passages. This one called itself Nexer, and served as what could loosely be translated as a species integration specialist. Your biological responses indicate elevated stress hormones, Nexer observed, its voice resonating directly in Ilara's mind rather than through the air. Inefficient energy expenditure. Ilara forced a neutral expression. Different species, different responses. Indeed, differences that will be cataloged extensively before your species is optimized for service. The casual cruelty of the statement made Ilara's stomach turn, but she maintained her composure. This was why she was here, to learn, to understand, to find weakness. They arrived at a vast chamber where Thilax waited, surrounded by what appeared to be a council of similar crystalline beings. The Supreme Architect regarded Ilara with that unsettling silver band. Scientific liaison Novak, it said, voice echoing in her consciousness. You stand before the Veridon Expansion Council. We will now outline your world's contribution parameters. For the next hour, Ilara listened as they detailed Earth's future. Bioharvesting quotas that would decimate human populations, resource extraction plans that would ravage the planet, prohibited technologies and restricted zones. Humanity would be confined to designated areas, while Veridon processing facilities were established in resource-rich regions. These terms are not negotiable, Thilax concluded. Implementation begins immediately. Ilara took a deep breath. This moment was crucial. She needed to appear cooperative while gaining valuable intelligence. We understand our position, she said carefully. But efficient implementation requires knowledge. We need to understand your physiology, your technology, your requirements. The more we know, the better we can serve. Thilax studied her for an uncomfortably long moment. Your motivation is transparent, Dr. Novak. You seek knowledge for resistance purposes. Ilara's heart raced, but she held the alien's gaze. Knowledge for efficiency. Resistance would be futile against your power. You've made that abundantly clear. Indeed we have. Thilax's voice carried a hint of satisfaction. Very well. Nexer will provide limited technical access. Your questions will be answered as deemed appropriate. As Ilara was escorted back to her quarters, a sterile chamber that resembled a laboratory more than a bedroom, Nexer lingered. You performed well, it said, the words carrying an unexpected weight. Most species plead or threaten. Ilara studied the alien carefully. Was that respect in its tone? We're practical, she replied. Adaptation is what humans do best. Is it? Nexer's luminous band flickered. Your historical records suggest otherwise. Humans often choose extinction over subjugation. History is written by survivors, Ilara countered. We're still here. Nexer moved closer, its voice dropping to what seemed like a whisper, though the words still formed directly in Ilara's mind. The Veridan Empire has conquered 17 species across 9 galactic sectors. None have successfully resisted. There's always a first time. No, Nexer said flatly. There is not. It paused, then added, but there was one, the Galaxy, who managed to inflict significant damage before their extinction. They discovered a vulnerability in our neural resonance network. With that cryptic statement, Nexer departed, leaving Ilara alone with her thoughts and a new name to research. Galaxy. Back on Earth, the resistance was already taking shape, though not in ways the Veridans might expect. Instead of military installations or weapons factories, the focus was on information. Teams of xenobiologists, physicists, and engineers worked around the clock, analyzing the limited samples of alien technology they could access. General Rivera had established a hidden command center deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, coordinating global efforts through quantum-encrypted channels. When Ilara's first data package arrived, smuggled in her supposedly empty personal transport pod, it was Rivera who received it. The package contained detailed scans of Veridan biological structures, ship schematics, and most importantly, mention of the Galaxy. Find out everything you can about them. Ilara's message read. They hurt the Empire somehow. We need to know how. Rivera turned to Dr. James Chen, a brilliant neurophysicist who had been analyzing Veridan communication patterns from their limited interactions. The Galaxy, Rivera said, sliding the data crystal across the table. What can you tell me? Chen's eyes lit up with recognition. There were references in the transmissions we intercepted. The Veridans mention them rarely, but when they do, there's a linguistic pattern that suggests fear, an empire that can erase buildings with a flash of light, afraid. Rivera scoffed. Everyone fears something, General. Chen replied softly. Even empires. 6 months after first contact, Earth had transformed. Massive Veridan harvesting facilities dotted the landscape, their twisted crystalline architectures rising like alien reefs among human cities. The atmosphere had taken on a perpetual haze, a side effect of their extraction technology that the Veridans dismissed as inconsequential to immediate human survival requirements. Ilara had returned to Earth, her position as scientific liaison, allowing her to move between Veridan facilities with relative freedom. Freedom carefully exploited to build the resistance network now known simply as Prometheus. Tonight, she navigated the ruins of Chicago's West Side, an area deemed non-essential by the occupiers and largely abandoned. The dilapidated warehouse appeared empty from the outside, but beneath it lay one of Prometheus's most critical research facilities. A hidden elevator took her 12 levels below the surface, where she was greeted by Dr. Chen. "You're late," Chen said, his voice tense. "Were you followed?" "No, but security protocols have tightened. They're implementing new biometric tracking systems next week." Ilara pulled a small device from her jacket. "Which is why we need this to work." Chen took the device, a stolen Veridan medical scanner modified to analyze their neural patterns. "Follow me." Rivera's waiting with the others. They entered a vast chamber filled with salvaged Veridan technology and Earth's most advanced computers. A team of specialists worked at various stations, while General Rivera stood before a holographic display of the nearest Veridan command center. "Dr. Novak," Rivera nodded grimly. "Your timing is impeccable. We found them, the Galaxy. What's left of them?" Chen corrected, bringing up a new hologram. "They weren't a species, Ilara. They were a resistance movement composed of multiple conquered species." The hologram showed beings of various forms and structures, unified by a single purpose: survival. For nearly 30 Earth years, They had waged a guerrilla war against the Empire before their eventual defeat. But not before they created this. Chen continued, the hologram shifting to display what appeared to be a small device no larger than a human hand. The Veridans call it the disruptor. It generates a field that interferes with their neural resonance network. Without it, their hive-mind coordination collapses. Ilara stared at the device, her mind racing. Do we know how to build it? Not yet, Rivera admitted, but we captured something better. She gestured to a guard, who opened a secured container to reveal an unconscious Veridan drone. We're going to learn exactly how their neural network functions, Rivera said, her voice hard with determination. And then we're going to tear it apart. Ilara approached the container, studying the crystalline being within. They think they know everything about us, she said quietly. They've analyzed our data, our history, our biology. But they missed something fundamental. What's that? Chen asked. Ilara looked up, her eyes burning with quiet intensity. Humanity doesn't just adapt to survive. We adapt to win. Rebellion and reckoning. 9 months into the occupation, humanity lived under the crushing weight of Veridan rule. Cities once vibrant with human culture now served as processing centers, their skylines dominated by crystalline towers that pulsed with eerie blue light. Heavily modified humans, early optimizations as the Veridans called them, patrolled the streets, their eyes replaced with silver bands matching their masters, their humanity stripped away along with their free will. Deep in the underground facility beneath Chicago's ruins, Ilara Novak worked with feverish intensity. She hadn't seen daylight in weeks, her skin pale under the artificial lights as she studied the neural patterns of the captured Veridan drone. The alien remained in an induced stasis, its crystalline body connected to a complex array of human and salvaged Veridan technology. Look at this, she said to Dr. Chen, pointing to a particular frequency pattern on the display. Their neural network operates on a quantum entanglement principle, but there's a carrier wave that synchronizes the individual nodes. If we can disrupt that wave, we can break their hive mind. Chen finished, eyes widening as he grasped the implications. But the power requirements would be enormous. General Rivera approached from behind them, her face haggard from months of coordinating the global resistance. Power we don't have. Not yet. But we might have something else. She activated a secure communication channel. On the screen appeared a face Ilara hadn't seen in months. Kai, her former research assistant, now operating from a resistance cell in what remained of Tokyo. We found it, Kai said without preamble, his voice crackling through the encrypted connection. The Galaxy Resonance Disruptor, an intact prototype. Ilara's heart skipped a beat. Where? Buried in the ruins of a Veridan research facility in the Australian outback. They were studying it, trying to develop countermeasures. Our team recovered it during a supply raid. Rivera leaned forward. Can you get it to us? Kai's face grew grim. That's the problem. All major transport routes are monitored. We need someone with clearance. All eyes turned to Ilara. I'm scheduled to visit the Sydney Processing Center next week, she said slowly. I could make a detour. It's too dangerous, Chen protested. If they catch you, if they catch any of us, it's over, Ilara cut him off. This is our chance. Rivera nodded, the decision made. Make the arrangements. In the meantime, we continue Phase 2. Phase 2 was already underway around the globe. Small resistance cells had begun targeting Veridan supply lines and communication relays. Nothing that would trigger a major response, but enough to gather intelligence and test Veridan security protocols. Each strike was carefully documented, patterns analyzed, weaknesses identified. We'll be ready when you return, Rivera promised. 1 week later, Ilara stood in the blistering heat of the Australian desert, her Veridan escort waiting impatiently by the transport. She had claimed a need to examine indigenous flora for potential bioharvesting, a request the Veridans granted with indifferent approval. Their arrogance was their weakness. They couldn't conceive that a resource species might effectively deceive them. I require 1 hour, she told the escort, a modified human with the telltale silver band across its eyes. The specimens are delicate. The escort gave a curt nod, its movements unnaturally precise. 1 hour. Then we proceed to Sydney. Ilara set off across the red earth, scientific equipment in hand. Once out of sight behind a rocky outcropping, she changed direction, heading for the coordinates Kai had provided. The resistance team was waiting in a concealed cave entrance, Kai among them. Ilara. He embraced her briefly, then stepped back to reveal a small containment unit. This is it. The device inside was smaller than she had imagined. A hexagonal object no larger than a paperback book, composed of materials she couldn't identify. Its surface was etched with intricate patterns that seemed to shift when viewed from different angles. The Galaxy called it the silencer, Kai explained. It creates a field that disrupts the Veridon quantum synchronization without affecting normal matter. Range is limited, about 50 meters, but it's enough to isolate individual Veridons from their network. Ilara carefully packed the device into a hidden compartment in her equipment case. This is just the beginning, she said. With this prototype, we can reverse engineer our own versions. Mass-produce them. How long will it take? One of the Australian resistance fighters asked. Weeks, not months, Ilara assured them. The Veridons think they're invincible. They're about to learn otherwise. The first strike came 3 weeks later in what had once been Berlin. A small team infiltrated a Veridon processing center, activated their reverse-engineered silencer, and for the first time witnessed the effect on the aliens firsthand. Cut off from their hive mind, the isolated Veridons became disoriented, their movements erratic, their communication abilities severely impaired. The team captured critical data from the facility's systems before disappearing back into the underground, leaving behind confused Veridon drones and a single message painted on the wall. Humanity lives. The Veridon response was swift and brutal. Collective punishment became their policy. For each act of resistance, 1,000 humans would be processed immediately. Cities that housed resistance cells saw accelerated harvesting quotas. The message was clear: continue to resist, and your species will not survive to see another year. In the command center beneath Chicago, Rivera studied reports of the Veridon retribution with a grim expression. They're scared, she concluded. They wouldn't respond with such force if they weren't. That doesn't help the people they're killing, Chen argued, his voice thick with suppressed grief. The processing center in his hometown of San Francisco had tripled its quota overnight. No, Rivera agreed, which is why we need to accelerate the timeline. She turned to Ilara. How many silencers can we deploy? 57 operational units worldwide, Ilara reported. Another 100 in production. But it's not enough for what you're thinking. It has to be, Rivera insisted. We can't wait while they decimate our population. Ilara shook her head. The silencers are only step one. I've been studying the drone's neural patterns. There's something else we can do, something that Galaxy never attempted. She brought up a complex diagram on the main display. The Veridon neural network doesn't just facilitate communication. It's integral to their biological functions. If we modify the silencer's resonance to this specific frequency, she highlighted a particular pattern. We can do more than just isolate them. We can shut them down completely. Kill them, Chen asked quietly. Temporarily paralyze them, Ilara clarified. Long enough to access their command chips and deploy the signal globally. Rivera studied the diagram. How long to modify the devices? 2 days, maybe 3. Do it, Rivera ordered, and prepare for global deployment. It's time to test whether an empire can fall in a day. Supreme Architect Thelax stood before the Expansion Council, its crystalline form pulsing with agitation. The isolated attacks had escalated, spreading to Veridon facilities across the planet. Most concerning were reports of targeted disruptions to their neural network, technology that should have been beyond human capabilities. The resistance must be eliminated, a council member insisted. increase processing quotas by 300%, remove their capacity to fight. The timing is problematic, another countered. The harvest fleet doesn't arrive for another 16 Earth days. If we process too many now, the remaining stock will be insufficient. Thalax's form flickered with irritation. This resistance is an anomaly. No resource species has demonstrated such coordination before. Perhaps we underestimated them, suggested Nexer, who had remained silent until now. Their historical records show remarkable adaptability under pressure. They are primitives, Thalax dismissed. Their technology is centuries behind ours. These attacks are merely inconveniences that have increased in frequency and effectiveness, Nexer pointed out. Perhaps we should consider. A sudden alarm interrupted the council meeting. The central display activated, showing disturbances at multiple Viridum facilities simultaneously. New York, Moscow, Beijing, New Delhi, Cairo, all reporting neural network fluctuations. Impossible, Thalax hissed. They cannot have developed this technology so quickly. Before any council member could respond, the command ship itself shuddered. The lights flickered, and for the first time in recorded Viridan history, the neural network went silent. Thalax felt the absence immediately, like a limb suddenly severed. Individual consciousness, isolated and vulnerable, was a sensation no Viridan had experienced in generations. Panic spread through the council chamber as the members realized they could no longer sense each other's thoughts. In that moment of confusion, the chamber doors slid open, revealing a figure that should not have been able to access this secure level. Dr. Ilara Novak, flanked by resistance fighters carrying modified silencers. Supreme Architect, Ilara said, her voice calm despite the enormity of the moment. I believe it's time we renegotiated Earth's terms of service. Across the globe, the scene repeated itself in every Viridum facility. Modified silencers activated simultaneously, guided by the exact frequency Ilara had identified from the captured drone. Without their neural network, the Viridans were reduced to confused individuals, their coordination and most of their advanced technology rendered useless. In the central command ship hovering above what had once been Geneva, Thalax faced Ilara and General Rivera across the crystalline council table. The Supreme Architect's form pulsed with weak, disordered light, a Viridan expression of distress. This is temporary, Thalax insisted, its voice now audible rather than telepathic, an unnerving screech of harmonics. The Empire will send reinforcements. You cannot hope to resist our full might. Perhaps, Rivera conceded, but we've learned much about your technology in these months. She nodded to a technician who activated a display showing Earth's newly established planetary defense system. Salvaged and modified Viridan weapons pointed outward to space. Any ship entering our system will be greeted with their own technology. And there's something else you should know, Ilara added, placing a small data crystal on the table. We've transmitted everything we've learned about the silencer technology to every system you've conquered. The specifications, the frequencies, everything needed to build their own resistance. The transmission went out hours ago on your own communication network. For the first time, Thalax's crystalline form lost its rigid structure, seemingly melting at the edges, the Viridum equivalent of horror. You've doomed yourselves. The Empire will not allow this precedent. No, Ilara corrected. We've freed ourselves and given others the tools to do the same. She leaned forward. Now here are our terms. Every Viridan ship will leave Earth's solar system immediately. All optimized humans will be returned to our care. And the Empire will acknowledge Earth's independence and our protected status. Or, Thalax demanded. Rivera smiled thinly. Or we send a more comprehensive package to your homeworld. One that doesn't just disrupt your neural network, but rewrites it. Your scientists should recognize the code. They developed it for resource species optimization. Poetic, isn't it? Thalax remained silent for a long moment, its form gradually stabilizing as it processed this existential threat. The council will need to confer. You have 1 hour, Rivera stated flatly. Then we make decisions for you. As the Veridan representatives were escorted from the chamber, Ilara turned to Rivera. Will they comply? They have no choice, Rivera replied. Their entire civilization is built on that neural network. The threat of having it compromised is too great. She paused, studying the stars visible through the ship's transparent ceiling. What happens next? We rebuild, Ilara said simply. And we prepare. The universe just got a lot more complicated. And a lot more interesting, Rivera added with the first genuine smile Ilara had seen from her in months. 1 year after the departure of the last Veridan ship, Earth was still healing. Cities were being reconstructed, ecosystems restored, and the optimized humans slowly rehabilitated. But humanity had changed fundamentally. Knowledge of extraterrestrial life and technology had accelerated human development by centuries. Ilara stood on the observation deck of humanity's first true starship, constructed from modified Veridan technology. Below her, Earth shone blue and peaceful, bearing scars that would take generations to fade completely. Ready for launch, Dr. Novak, Captain Kai reported, now commanding officer of Earth's first exploratory vessel. Not Dr. Novak anymore, she reminded him with a smile. Just Ambassador Novak now. After the Veridan withdrawal, humanity had quickly established a unified planetary government, the Earth Confederation, with Ilara appointed as humanity's first ambassador to the stars. Course plotted for the Galaxy remnant colonies, Kai confirmed. They're eager to meet the species that finish what they started. Ilara nodded, watching as the final preparations for departure were completed. Reports had come in from across the former Veridan Empire, world after world rising up using the silencer technology, the once mighty empire crumbling from within, as each subjugated species reclaimed their freedom. They thought they knew us from our data, Ilara mused. They studied our history, our science, our wars, but they missed the most important thing about humanity. What's that? Kai asked. Ilara turned from the viewport, facing the bridge of the Starship Independence as the engines hummed to life. That we never accept chains, no matter how strong they seem. And that humanity doesn't just survive. We prevail. The stars beckoned as Earth's first starship accelerated away from the planet that had nearly become just another conquered world in a vast empire. Instead, it had become something far more dangerous to Terrans across the galaxy. An example. Somewhere in the cosmos, new civilizations awaited discovery. Some would be friends. Others, perhaps, would be foes who hadn't yet learned the lesson the Veridans had been taught at such cost. When Earth refuses to kneel, empires fall.